What's up guys, my name's Brandon, and iOS 13.1.2 and iPadOS 13.1.2 were just released last week, and in this video I wanted to give you guys an update on how the software has been running for me on all my devices. And as you can tell from the title, this update did also solve a major issue I was facing with my iPhone 11, and I'm going to talk about that here in a few minutes. So as I always do in these follow-up videos, I just wanted to discuss some of the new features and changes in this update. We're going to discuss the performance and battery life as well, and of course I did also want to talk about some of the issues you guys have been facing on your devices. Now, iOS 13.1.2 was a relatively small update. It didn't really have many major new features or changes. It was really more of a bug fix update to fix a lot of the bugs that were in iOS 13.0 and 13.1.1. And iOS 13.1.2 was released so soon after 13.1.1 that we really didn't have time to talk about anything on 13.1.1. So if you're wondering about that update video, it's not going to come just because 13.1.2 came so soon afterwards. But iOS 13.1.2 seems to be running pretty good for most of you guys. I haven't had any reports of the camera app not working anymore after this update. This was a bug fix here in 13.1.2, and 13.0 and 13.1.1, a lot of people weren't even able to use their camera. Like some people reported it being black. I got screenshots of this as well. And basically some other people, their camera application would just crash. On the new iPhone 11, 11 Pro, and 11 Pro Max, they weren't even able to use the camera at all. So that was fixed. Of course, that is pretty major, but it was pretty relatively small. I wouldn't say a lot of people had that issue, but that was addressed here in 13.1.2. Of course, we did have the Icloud Bug Fix as well that would fix the little bar that showed that your backup was completed. And like I said, just a lot of small things here in 13.1.2. So there's really nothing to talk about in terms of changes and features and things like that. I more so want to talk about the performance, the battery life, and of course the overheating issue I had here on the iPhone 11 with 13.0 and 13.1.1. Now, before we get off the topic of new features and changes, I did want to mention something about audio sharing. So I've had a lot of people say that they have audio sharing working on 13.1.2, but I think a lot of people are getting that confused with the Bluetooth 5.0 feature that allows you to connect multiple AirPods at any given time. So you can see right here, if we go into this, right there where it says headphones, and if you connect two AirPods, or if you open up two AirPods, it will show two sets of headphones there, and you can basically control the audio and everything on those. But that's not audio sharing. That's just more of a Bluetooth 5.0 feature that allows you to connect to multiple headphones at the same time. The audio sharing feature will actually say audio sharing right there. It will say audio sharing. You'll get an animation and things like that. If you don't see that text that says actual audio sharing, you don't have audio sharing on your device. Now, me personally, I have not been able to get this to work on 13.0, 13.1.1, 13.1.2, anything. I've not been able to get this to work yet. Still working on it with 13.2. I'm hoping I can actually get it to work there, especially because audio sharing was one of the features I was most looking forward to in iOS 13 ever since Apple announced it as a feature. Now, we also did not get announced messages with Siri in this update. That's in iOS 13.2 beta right now, and that's the case with a few other features as well that we were promised to get in iOS 13. They're basically all coming in like iOS 13.2 and later. So if you're a fan of those features, you'll definitely want to update to iOS 13.2 when it does get released. However, I would not install the beta just yet as it's pretty unstable. I will have a follow-up video coming on iOS 13.2 probably tomorrow, but I would definitely not recommend going to 13.2 as of yet. I would wait until at least a few betas in, if not the final release of 13.2. Now, as for the performance and the battery life here on iOS 13.1.2, it's been terrific. Here on my iPhone 11, I did actually update to iOS 13.2, and then I downgraded back to 13.1.2 right after I made my video on 13.2 a few days ago. But it's been running perfect here on my iPhone 11. It's running great on my iPhone 11 Pro as well. I was also using it on my daily driver here, the 11 Pro Max, until of course iOS 13.2 beta 1 did come out. But it's been running perfectly fine here. Battery life and performance, really nothing to complain about at all. And that's with using it on all devices. However, I will say that on my iPhone 6s here, I did not get great battery life on iOS 13.1.2. However, I don't think that's a software issue. I just think that at this point, if you have the iPhone 6s, you're just not going to get great battery life. I mean, even software updates can't save you at this point, or a replacement battery. I would just consider upgrading to a new phone just because battery life is not near as good as the battery life you get on the newer devices. I mean, obviously that's the case, but I think that's the reason why I just don't get great battery life with the 6s, because I'm just so used to great battery life with these newer phones that just get a lot more out of its battery. But performance-wise, the iPhone 6s is great on iOS 13.1.2, and of course it's great on every other device as well. I don't really have any random hangups. I don't get any random reboots. CarPlay is still a little bit buggy, but that's to be expected. I mean, that's still even on 13.2 beta, it's still pretty buggy. But as far as applications and fonts and everything like that, everything is running smooth here on 13.1.2 on all my devices that I've tested it on. Now, getting to the title of this video, the biggest change for me here on iOS 13.1.2 is the overheating issue. It's been solved here on my iPhone 11 finally. So I originally mentioned this issue with the iPhone 11 in my battery test comparison video where I compared the battery life on all the new iPhones, pretty much the iPhone 10 and above. And man, after I just picked up that iPhone 11, that thing definitely got hotter than any of the 3 other phones that I picked up. So it'll be interesting to see if the 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max are as hot as the iPhone 11 was. That's very interesting there. It's like abnormally hot. And in that video, I ran through an extensive battery test on all the devices. And after I picked all of them up after they died, the iPhone 11 was by far the hottest device. Like the back of it was just so blazing hot, hotter than any device that I had where I did the exact same thing on all the devices. So it was really strange to me. At first I thought I had a defective device just because it was so much hotter than anything else. And I especially started thinking that it could have been a hardware defect when the heating issue persisted through iOS 13.1 and then even through 13.1.1. However, I have been extensively testing this. I've been playing games like Mario Kart here. I played the Call of Duty. I recorded a 4K video for like 20 minutes on this. I had it charging for a long time while I was doing that. And I definitely noticed that the iPhone 11 does not heat up near as much as it did on iOS 13.0 or 13.1. Now I will say that the iPhone 11 here does still get hotter than the 11 Pro and the 11 Pro Max, but that could just be because of the backing material. Since we have that glass back here, we don't have that frosted back like we have here on the back of these phones. I'm not sure if that's the difference or not, but I noticed it consistently. Even with 13.1.2 and 13.2, the iPhone 11 still does get a little bit hotter than the other devices. However, it's definitely been fixed from iOS 13.0, which is what the iPhone 11 shipped with. And I think that the original issue just had everything to do with the software not being optimized for a new device like the iPhone 11. But still, that doesn't make sense why it was only the iPhone 11 and not the Pro or the Pro Max. So I'm a little bit confused, but if I had to guess, I would say that it was definitely something to do with the iOS 13.0 software and the new devices. Apple just had to kind of optimize the software for these devices. So yeah, if you didn't already update to iOS 13.1.2, you definitely should. It's a very stable release, which is something I can't say about the current iOS 13.2 beta. And for those of you that were holding off on buying the iPhone 11 because of my overheating issue, you can go ahead and purchase because it seems to be software related and not a hardware issue like I thought. Now, I didn't actually say that publicly in any videos because I didn't want to, spread any kind of false rumors or anything like that. I kind of just questioned, if it was software or hardware. I didn't really know, but now I can pretty confidently say that it is just a software-based issue. And of course, I did have people in my comment section who also had this issue thinking about returning their iPhone 11 for an 11 Pro, but I don't think you should do that. Again, I think you should just update and you will see your issue get resolved, most likely. Now, if it does still persist for you, then I would potentially look at getting it replaced. Apple will probably replace that for you. It just depends on your own situation. Now, I will continue monitoring this throughout iOS 13, so definitely stay tuned, although I doubt this issue will ever arise again. Again, it was likely just due to the device being so new and the software that came with it not being fully optimized, but still, I will report to you guys in every update to see if it did come back, if it got better, if it got worse, or if it just stayed the same and stayed normal like it is right now. So yeah, this is the first time I ever had an issue with an iPhone overheating, but luckily it has been resolved here with 13.1.2, and I would presume iOS 13.2 as well, but I would definitely update you guys on that when the final release of 13.2 does get released. And again, stay tuned for my iOS 13.2 beta 1 follow-up coming up tomorrow. Unless iOS 13.2 beta 2 gets released, then I will, touch on 13.2 beta 1 in that video. And then my iPhone 11 reviews are also coming later on this week. So anyways, guys, there you have it. iOS 13.1.2 saved my iPhone 11 here. I was actually thinking about returning it, but I decided to hold it out and see if it would be fixed with a software update, and sure enough, it has been. So if you guys enjoyed this video, if you found it informative at all, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and of course, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss any of my future iOS 13 videos and my iPhone 11 videos. So anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.